One packed for you guys. Tickets to the Idaho Steelheads. We'll do that for Rock Jocks and Pop Culture. But first, we continue our list. We are all the way down number 7, essentially halfway through our list of the top 15 most important Boise State football players heading into spring ball. We welcome in our video audience. This is our Dollar Loan Center video segment that we do each and every day on the program, Prater, and here we go. Old number 7. 7 was always my favorite number as a kid. I was a big John Elway guy. I'm not sure if you had a number, but for me, Prater, number 7 is always a little special.
Let's talk number 7 then today. A'Marion McCoy, cornerback, Boise State, and we think he's going to be locked in as one starting cornerback. Although with a new defensive head coach, or with a new head coach and a new defensive scheme, and I don't know about scheme, but new defensive coordinator with some wrinkles. You never really know. We'll see what spring ball starts here in a couple of weeks. We'll see how that shakes out. I know that Spencer Danielson has promised massive changes. Everything kind of starts over, and we're going to see. But I'd be surprised if A'Marion McCoy, who came in last year from junior college, wasn't one of the starters. That makes him one of the most important players on this position, on this team, because that position is certainly one of the most important in football. And the big question is, until they figure out the other side of the cornerback situation, which is wide open, and we're going to explore that storyline a lot in spring ball, A'Marion McCoy has to be one of the top 10 most important players on this football team. So that's why he checks in at number 7 ball game.
And it does. I mean, you hear coaches say sometimes there is a transition period for the JUCO player, especially when they come up to a level like Boise State. And I think A'Marion McCoy experienced some of that. Remember, this time last year, no one had ever heard of McCoy. He shows up early, and Prater, you and I thought he had a good spring game. He played well in the spring game. And then we're like, oh, that's that McCoy guy. Then he kind of disappeared on us a little bit when fall camp started. He wasn't as active in the corner rotation early on in the season. But by the end of the year, no question about it, he was the best corner on this team. He led this team in interceptions last year, Prater, with 3, had about 6 passes defensed, and showed a lot of ability in coverage. He's not the biggest guy. In fact, he's probably the smallest guy on the team when you look at him. I know he's listed at 6 feet, 172 pounds, A'Marion McCoy. Maybe he put some on, but for me, he is the biggest piece of the biggest question mark on this team. And for me, the biggest question mark on this team are who are going to play corner. And A'Marion McCoy, I think, is one of them now. Prater, his spring ball number 2 for A'Marion. He needs to come in there and be a leader, be cocky for me, a little brash, the corner type of mentality. Bring that, be an all Mountain West caliber corner here and take over this spring ball. So I'm excited for where he's going, Prater. He had a good year last year. Now, Prater, can he follow it up?
Yeah, more importantly, and you're not wrong about the spring ball, but more importantly, can he take that through the summer? Can he take that into August? Can he take that into the first half of the season? He didn't start last year until the 7th week of the season. And Jalen Clark started, I think, every cornerback on the other side. And Jalen Clark is suspended from the team right now. I don't expect him to ever come back and play football for Boise State. Yeah. So that's a big, big hit there. Markel Reed's in the mix. And he rebounded okay last year after, so many different injuries. And I think he might be in the mix. But yeah, A'Marion McCoy with the stats, the interceptions, the experience, the leadership. He came in week 7 and became a starter for the most part the rest of the season, and really kind of latched onto that job and took it by its horns. So I was really impressed with what he did late in the season. I think he's a great player. He can move around and do a lot of different things. And I really appreciate what he can do. So let's see what he can do. And I think A'Marion McCoy is going to be if him, and let's say, I know Kaniho can play in there a little bit. Reed can play in there a little bit. The Irby kid out of California, the University of Cal, is certainly going to be in this mix. I can't wait to see what he does. But maybe they give them some competition. And, it'd be nice even if they have to establish a couple of starters, they need to establish some depth behind them. And there's not a lot of established depth right now. There's a lot of names on here, including the Griffey name, which he's a walk-on. I don't expect him to be any kind of impactful player for this football team right now, but it's certainly a name. And that's really all we're looking at right now is a lot of names. A couple of names that we like in terms of Reed and Kaniho and McCoy. But then after that, it just drops off dramatically, ballgame.
I think you're looking at Markel Reed, like you said, and A'Marion McCoy having the inside track to be the starting corners week one.
I don't know about that because, McCoy replaced Reed last year.
Okay.
Reed, Canio started the first couple of games last year, and I didn't go back and look at the snaps of the rotation, but I know Canio started the first couple of games last year. And then all of a sudden, here comes Reed, started 3 or 4 or 5 games, and then he got replaced by McCoy. Now, can they still put Reed over on the other side? Sure. Back to your point, I think that's probably a good starting point. And if Reed develops into what the consistency of what he had last year, if they can continue to develop that and he can continue to do that, that's certainly going to make it. I think Irby is the wild card here. I know you're excited about Irby, and this is a kid who had played well and had some chances and produced some stats in the Pac-12 last year with Cal, and he's been doing it for a year or two. So I think that kid's got a lot of chance. But A'Marion McCoy to me is the CB1 going into spring camp for sure.
Yeah, definitely want to see what the Irby kid can do. But we didn't put any of those guys on this list because hey, we don't know kind of how important they are to this team yet because they haven't essentially put a helmet on for this team yet. But yeah, certainly at the conclusion, because we're doing our top 15 list after spring ball, spring game April 20th. So we'll do that list the following week after that. And I would expect maybe an Irby to be on that list. And hopefully for McCoy's sake, he makes that list again too, because that means he's done what we're talking about him needing to do in spring ball. Solidify. Make sure you're you're CB1 on this thing. You're the one. You're going to draw the tough assignment. You're the one that's going to be saying, yeah, number one receivers on the other team. I want you. I want to guard you. I want that assignment. Now, if they can't find anybody, I wonder if they would even consider exploring other positions for players. Like, for example, could they try Shea Oladipo at corner and then play Tubner at nickel or somewhere along those lines? For me, this is the biggest question mark, certainly on the defense and maybe on the team. Prater, if they have pedestrian corner play next year, and they could be in a lot more close games than they're bargaining for, I think. And A'Marion McCoy, big factor here for the corner position. He needs to be an all-league guy. Boise State has not had, have they, an all-league corner? Feels like it's been a couple of years. Biggers might have been an honorable mention.
I'd have to go back and look at that. But the one thing I need from this group as a whole, it starts with McCoy because he showed some flashes of last year, and you guys heard the stats over and over and over again. Not a special teams touchdown and not a defensive touchdown last year. And Boise State did a decent job of finishing with interceptions. I'm not exactly sure how many they had, somewhere around 10-ish, maybe even 11-ish, 12, somewhere in that neighborhood. They need to turn some of those into points and the playmakers. And there's some great talent on here. And you mentioned McCoy, his size, he's not that big, but at least he's 6 foot. I remember 20 years ago, Boise State cornerbacks were 5'7", 5'8", 5'9", 5'10", and then all of a sudden they became 5'10", 5'11", and now we're seeing them at 6 foot plus. And Boise State's done a remarkable job of at least getting some cornerbacks with a little bit more size over the last couple of years. And yeah, he can maybe put on another 5 pounds or so, but I need to see some playmaking. I need to see some touchdowns. It's been a long time since we had a fun pick six around your ball game.
Who are the other corners? Who are you counting on this year, Bronco Nation, at the corner position? Share your thoughts on our Cloverdale Plumbing text line at 208-424-9300. A couple other games, the Neal name. I don't know if you mentioned that, Prater. I know he's on the list. Jalen Neal. But yeah, this is a position that's got a lot of players open, and it starts with A'Marion McCoy. Now, no one knows anybody's eligibility anymore, Prater, but I am pretty sure. I don't think he has a COVID year. I believe this is it for A'Marion McCoy. I know he played 2 years at Laney College. This will be his second year at Boise State. If he still has a red shirt, he won't plan on using it this year unless he gets hurt before the 4-game mark, and then he can. But other than that, McCoy's going to be a senior. You're going to have to replace him eventually, but also, this is it for him. He needs to come out and have the best year he can, and it's not always easy as a JC player. I've heard a lot of JC players. I know you probably have too. You never quite feel like you're one of the guys as much or accepted. Yep. There's always just this thing about, well, you were a JC guy first, but A'Marion McCoy, came here, played well last year, like we said. I wonder what it was. Where was the improvement? Was it him just getting a chance to play because dudes playing in front of him were stinking it up? Or was it finally A'Marion McCoy did, and improved in practice or whatever he needed to, and then you started seeing that on the field? Because this one, you said he didn't have a start until week 7, and it's not like the corners playing ahead of him, Prater, we're all having all conference type of seasons, bro.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it was consistency, and I didn't go back and look at the film of him, and I probably could have and should have, but I mean, we all know that Boise State's defense struggled in the past last year. They struggled in giving up explosive plays. That's secondary, and it wasn't all just cornerbacks, but certainly cornerbacks contributed to that. The defensive backs, the safeties, Tubner, everybody contributed to that kind of nonsense, and it was frustrating. It was very, very frustrating.
Yeah.
I think they got a little bit of a handle on that toward the end, but it certainly was still not up to Spencer Danielson's standards, and it'll be fun to see what kind of tweaks they have with this defense this year, and how they change up a few things and bring in some new coaches and all that kind of stuff. But for me, it would just be about the consistency, and you can't give up those big plays. And there's too much athleticism in the back half of Boise State's defense not to be able to stop some of those. So I don't know if it was scheme. I don't know exactly what it was, but that nonsense needs to start. That was very frustrating to watch last year.
Yeah, last year, by the way, I believe I counted 11 interceptions. I think you were correct on that, which is a little less than 1 a game. I don't know what you would want your average to be. Obviously, as many as you can, but a reasonable number feels like in today's college football, Prater. I don't know, 15 is probably
15.
high. That's probably a really good year if you get 15 passes intercepted.
That's kind of what I would expect out of a team. Yeah. An interception, 1.5 interceptions every other game type of thing, So, 15 would be spectacular. I don't know what Boise State's school record is, but, give me 15 or give me 12 with a couple of pick sixes. Just give your offense a little bit of a break, and let's see some playmakers out there do some of the things.
All right, A'Marion McCoy, number 7 on this list, and we got some hot names coming up the rest of the week. Prater, tomorrow is the one shift over. We go back to the offensive line, I believe, tomorrow for big number 6.
And then a wide receiver on Wednesday. We got a linebacker on Thursday, and maybe a little quarterback action on Friday. Ball game. I think I can safely say that out of the 5 football players we're looking at this week, a couple of these guys are going to end up in the NFL, and maybe even more than a couple.
Dang, Prater. We got a receiver, you said, a quarterback, we got a lineman, we got all the food groups.
And a linebacker who might be my favorite player on this football team. Yeah.
And a linebacker. 208-424-9300. Yes, it started with Caden Dudley at number 15, and now here we are wrapping up number 7, cornerback A'Marion McCoy. And again, on a position, Prater, for me, that even adds to McCoy's value is, there's a whole lot of questions. They shouldn't have jersey numbers for corners, Prater. They should put question marks on these guys.
I like
a lot of question marks in the cornerback room specifically.
Especially the way Spencer Danielson plays him. And he's just kind of he comes off as this nice guy, I want to be your friend. I want to be your inspiration. But then he takes his cornerbacks and he puts them out there and says, 1-on-1, man on an island, don't screw it up. I mean, he loves that.
He totally does that, man.
He loves to put his cornerbacks into a 1-on-1 situation. That gives him the freedom. If he feels like he has confidence in those guys, that gives him the freedom to play around with the rest of his defense. He loves putting his cornerbacks on an island. And I don't anticipate him changing that. We'll see if there's any tweaks or wrinkles, but I would imagine he'll continue to be sadistic that way.
Is it naive for me to expect that issue last year of just getting beat, burned deep? Is it naive for me to expect those to all be gone? Like, that's going to be the biggest emphasis of cleaning up. And next year, Boise State fan will go into that season thinking, you know what? I'm not going to hold my breath every time the opponent goes deep on me.
I thought they did better toward the end of the season, but the consistency again needs to get better. No doubt.
Gosh, man, was that the boogeyman of that team last year? And there were several boogeymen, but was it the deep ball?
On defense, absolutely.
I felt like it.
Yeah,
absolutely. 208-424-9300. We got a pair of Idaho Steelhead tickets coming up on Rock Jocks and Pop Culture. That's around the corner. Prater, Gerald Brown. Maybe I'll remind everybody of this when we come back real quick. But Prater, we have a very prestigious former NFL and major college level running back coach coming on in 45 minutes. I'm excited for that dude.
Yeah, Gerald Brown was George Halani's running back coach at the Hula Bowl.
Yeah.
He's going to join us here in about 45 minutes. George Halani off to his NFL chances this week at the Combine.
What question should we ask him? Text 208-424-9300 on Prater in the Ball Game. Shout out here. How about a week from Thursday? You get your special sweet deal at KTIK.com. This is season tickets to the Idaho Horsemen Arena football team. You get them at half price. That's 6 games at the Idaho Center starting in March for $68. Yes, that's for the season, and you can get this sweet deal on Thursday, just in a couple of days there at KTIK.com, JP, hooking it up for the Idaho Horsemen on that. Prater, let's get out of here. We'll be right back.
From the Beacon Plumbing Traffic Studios, this is Ticket